6 weeks after I buried my husband, I watched him order a second drink by a hotel pool in Florida, laughing like a man who'd never spent a single day in a coffin. For a second, I told myself it was someone else. Same build, same habit of pushing his sunglasses onto his forehead mid-sentence. Then he turned and I saw the thin scar above his left eyebrow, the one from a bike accident when he was 9. That was Marcus. My husband. The man whose walnut casket I'd watched lowered into the ground outside Cincinnati 6 weeks earlier. My name is Diane Whitfield. I'm 52. And there he was in Sarasota wearing the linen shirt I'd given him for our anniversary. I took one step toward the pool deck. My sister Paige grabbed my wrist. Not yet, she said. That's my husband. I know, Paige said, glancing across the water. Apparently he's feeling better. I pulled my arm free. What is going on, Paige? She reached into her bag and pulled out a folded manila envelope. Read this first. I don't want to read anything. I want to walk over there and ask why my dead husband has a tan. That, she said quietly, is exactly why you need to read this first. Marcus had supposedly drowned 6 weeks earlier on a solo boating trip near Lake Cumberland. A clear-your-head weekend he'd insisted on taking alone. The boat was found capsized. His wallet, watch, and phone turned up along the shoreline 2 days later. The body recovered after was, I was told, in no condition to view. His mother, Eleanor, had been the one to convince me not to. Remember him the way he was, Diane. At the time I thought she was being kind. So we had a closed casket. 90 people came. Marcus's firm sent an obscene arrangement of white lilies. I stood beside Eleanor and thanked every single one of them for coming to grieve a man who was, at that very moment, apparently deciding between the shrimp cocktail and the crab cakes 40 minutes from the Gulf. I opened the envelope with hands that had gone strangely steady. The first page was a photograph. Marcus walking through a resort lobby, time-stamped 4 days earlier. Same linen shirt. Same watch. The one I thought had washed up in a marina in Kentucky. I looked up, across the pool. He was wearing that exact watch right now. I turned the next page. A short-term rental agreement. Sarasota. The renting entity was a name I'd never heard in 18 years of marriage. Gulfstream Advisory Partners, LLC. What is this? I said. It wasn't really a question. I was hoping you'd know, Paige said. The next page was worse. A transfer from our home equity line. $91,000, pulled 8 days before Marcus's accident. I stared at it until the numbers stopped looking like numbers. We never borrowed that, I said. I know. I turned another page, and a name jumped out at me that took a full 3 seconds to register, because my brain simply refused the information at first. Renee Callahan. Emergency contact. Marcus's first wife. The one he swore he hadn't spoken to in over a decade. I looked back across the pool. Renee was leaning toward him, laughing at something. Eleanor, Marcus's mother, my mother-in-law, the woman who'd held my hand at the funeral, was laughing too. Not shocked laughter. Comfortable laughter. Like this was a Tuesday. Like I hadn't spent 6 weeks sleeping on his side of the bed because mine felt too empty. I stood up. I'm going over there, I said. Paige stood with me, her voice low and steady. If you walk over there right now, he gets to explain first. And you know Marcus. He'll have you apologizing to him in 10 minutes. She wasn't wrong. That was the part that scared me most. So I sat back down behind the potted palm, papers shaking in my lap, and watched the husband I had buried lift his glass to his mother, and the woman he swore meant nothing to him anymore. While I tried to understand how a man could die so convincingly and still be very, very much alive, Paige and I left the pool deck. Without another word between us, but the second the elevator doors closed, I turned on her. How long have you known? She pressed the button for the 4th floor. 9 days. I stared at her. 9 days. You let me sleep in that house for 9 days thinking my husband was dead. I was trying to be sure before I destroyed your life over a photograph. You didn't destroy it, Paige. Marcus destroyed it. You just let me keep decorating a grave that was empty. She flinched, and I almost regretted it. Almost. Back in the hotel room, she laid it all out. 3 days after Marcus's funeral, she'd been helping me sort through mail, bills I hadn't had the strength to open, when she noticed a recurring charge to an account neither of us recognized. $2,650 a month, going out for nearly a year. She assumed it was a business expense at first. Then she couldn't stop pulling the thread. A licensed investigator, $600 of her own money. And 11 days later, a rental record in Sarasota, a photograph, and a name, Gulfstream Advisory Partners. You spent your own money on this, I said. I'll send you the invoice at Christmas. I didn't laugh. I wanted to. Instead, I asked the question that had been sitting under my ribs since the pool. Did he ever say anything to you? About leaving me? Paige's face went hard in a way I'd never seen. No. I found out your husband was alive while trying to help you understand your own electric bill, Diane. Don't put this on me. I apologized. She let me. Then she handed me the last document in the folder. A life insurance summary. Marcus's employer policy, $700,000, me listed as sole beneficiary. Claim filed but not yet paid. Still pending additional documentation. If he's alive, I said slowly, they don't pay out. No. Then why fake this at all? If I still get the money? Neither of us had an answer. And that, more than anything else in that folder, was the detail that kept me up that night. Because I understood, even then, that a plan this careful wasn't built around one payout. It was built around several. Back in Cincinnati, everything in my own house looked like evidence. Marcus's coffee mug, the filing cabinet in his office, the little dish by the door where he used to drop his keys every night for 18 years. Our lawyer, a calm, unshakable man named Gordon Ash, sat us down 2 days later and told me the one thing I didn't want to hear. Stop thinking like Marcus's wife, he said. Start thinking like the person whose name is on the mortgage, the tax returns, and the debt. That's when the second policy surfaced. Not the employer plan, a private one. $1.1 million. Beneficiary changed 13 months earlier. I already knew before Gordon said the name. Eleanor, I said, his mother. Over the next hour, Marcus's plan unfolded with an ugliness that was almost administrative. I would get the employer payout and quietly use it to absorb the debt he'd left behind. The HELOC, the funeral costs, the mess. Eleanor would get the private policy, believing she was protecting family money from a divorce Marcus had convinced her was coming, using the exact wound his own father had once carved into her decades earlier. And Renee got the relocation. A new life somewhere Marcus had already been quietly building for over a year. 3 separate women. 3 separate uses. That night my phone rang from a blocked number. I almost let it go to voicemail. I didn't. Diane. His voice hit some old part of me before my mind could catch up. You're going to need a very long explanation, I said. I can explain everything, if you just. You had a funeral, Marcus. Silence. Then, quieter. Don't call the police yet. There's something my mother doesn't know. The line went dead before I could ask what. That was the moment I understood Marcus hadn't told one lie. He'd built 3 different ones and handed each woman in his life exactly enough truth to stay useful. And not one word more. Eleanor's 75th birthday dinner was at a country club outside Cincinnati 2 weeks later. Under any normal circumstance, I wouldn't have been invited. I had, after all, buried her son 6 weeks earlier. Normal circumstances no longer applied. Paige drove. Gordon and 2 investigators were already there, waiting quietly near the entrance. Not for a dramatic arrest, just for the moment Marcus walked in, because he'd told Eleanor he'd come once the family thinned out. At 8:40, the side door opened. Marcus stepped in wearing gray slacks, no tie, and stopped cold when he saw me. The room went silent. His cousin finally muttered, "Well, this is awkward." Nobody laughed. "Diane, whatever she's told you." Marcus started. "Not tonight," I said. "These people buried you too, Marcus. They get to hear this as much as I do." I laid it out for the room. Gulfstream, the $91,000 pulled from our house, the 2 insurance policies, The second one with Eleanor's name on it, that Marcus had never planned to actually let her keep. Eleanor's face went pale. "What about my policy? He expected you to sign over control of it," I said gently. "He needed you to believe I was the threat, Eleanor. Not him." She turned to her son. "You told me she was going to take everything." "Mom, don't. You told me she wanted a divorce." "I didn't even know we had problems that serious," I said. "There was no divorce coming, Marcus. There was just you leaving." For one moment, something in his voice cracked into something almost human. "Diane, I did love you. 18 years. You think none of that mattered?" And for one breath, I let myself remember it. Pancakes on Sunday mornings, his hand on my back at my father's funeral, the night after my surgery when he slept upright in a hospital chair rather than leave me alone. Then I thought about the man they'd actually pulled from that lake. A marina worker with a daughter who spent 6 weeks not knowing where her father was because my husband found his death useful and let everyone keep believing a lie that was never corrected. "Did his family deserve what you did?" I asked quietly. Marcus said nothing. That's what I thought. The investigators stepped forward. No handcuffs at the birthday cake. No scene. Just Marcus walked calmly toward the door, glancing back once. "You're really going to throw 18 years away?" "No, Marcus," I said. "You already did that. I'm just done cleaning up after you." Then he was gone. Months of paperwork followed: frozen assets, insurance claims denied, a divorce I never expected to need, a house with too many bedrooms I finally sold because I was tired of cleaning gutters for a marriage that no longer existed. Marcus eventually took a plea rather than risk trial. Eleanor wrote to me 3 times before I read a single letter. When I finally did, she admitted she'd wanted his story about me to be true, because it was easier than admitting what her son had become. I never rebuilt anything with her, but I stopped needing her punished every morning, and that was enough. I kept one photograph from our old life. The 2 of us by a lake, years before any of this, his arm around me, both of us laughing at something outside the frame. Paige asked why I kept it. "Because I was happy that day," I told her. "His betrayal doesn't get to rewrite that too. I used to think revenge meant making someone hurt as badly as they'd hurt you. I don't think that anymore." Marcus had already destroyed the life he was so desperate to escape. All I had to do was stop protecting him from it.